welcome back to my channel. I'm not really sure what I'm going to call this video, but I've just been having some thoughts on writing, obviously. But as I've mentioned in several videos before, I didn't read books until 2020 when the pandemic hit. So I feel like I'm, as many other people basically find themselves, anytime that you have, you discover this online world about reading and books, I feel like I'm now at a point where I'm playing catch up, and but I feel like everyone could be doing this, and people have, everyone is always trying to figure out their taste and what they enjoy. So I feel like I have no script, I have no ideas here, I have no ideas, well, I mean, I have ideas, I just have no coherent list of thoughts. I never do in life in general, but I just feel like I need to talk through some things and possibly prompt some discussion about writing and books and reading. Just things that, I don't know. So the way I've done this is I've taken basically 10 different authors and I have organized them by what I would say my least favorite to my most favorite writers are. In my opinion, my subjective opinion, which is not fact, I feel like these are, as we go down the line, more and more talented in terms of just writing craft alone. So just for an example, to go through this, we're going to talk about Rochelle Mead. Now, I have all of these ranked from just their writing, but this was still a 4-star book for me because I still enjoyed the plot and the characters and the world of this series. So you can see I still have the whole series back here behind me, but I just don't think the writing is good. And before I started this journey of my reading taste, if you will, I wouldn't have thought writing is something that's so important to me. Like, not being a reader, watching Booktube, I always thought when people said, oh, this book is so lyrical and so flowery and so just metaphorical, I feel like is the flowery metaphorical. I would have thought that's not the writing for me. I would have thought that's not what I want to read. That sounds so extra. But as I've come to learn my taste in fantasy, by the end of this series, because the writing is not what I want to read, it just kind of hindered my experience. I'm going to have a whole entire vlog for this series eventually. Hopefully I'm going to have it edited before this video goes up I just did enjoy the series overall. I'm glad I read it. Not sure if I'll ever read it again, and probably will not continue to read 6 more books because the writing just started to kind of grate on me. Not even sure if I'm using that word correctly. I'm not a good writer, but it was an experience. So we have Rochelle Mead, who is, in my opinion, at the bottom of the list. And now get ready to be angry, because my next person I would say is Brandon Sanderson. And I feel like this is a common thing. People constantly critique his writing, his prose, his sentence structure. I don't have the verbiage for this. I don't have the best way to articulate it. I don't know. I'm not an expert in it. I'm just trying to figure out what I like to read as a reader. And while I did enjoy the series overall as well, and I'm glad I read it and I will probably keep it, I would even maybe revisit this series eventually. I even actually annotated this book. This was like 4.25, maybe even 4.5 for the first book. The second book, I think I have a couple vlogs over the second and the third book in the series that I will try to link below if I remember. But this writing is not good. That sounds mean. This writing is not my taste. This writing is not my particular taste, but this trilogy is just, I don't know. I'm still very intrigued to continue on reading more by Brandon Sanderson, don't get me wrong, but he's not hitting at the level for many other people, I would say. Okay, bye-bye to that. Now, the next person is V.E. Schwab, who I think is very good at writing. I think she has, one of her strengths, in my opinion, is her writing, her prose, her sentence structure. I feel like it's very strong. However, this series, I could make a whole video. You know what? I might make a whole video comparing these series because it's just, they're so similar and in the same publishing house that I could make comparisons to them. But I do feel like the writing in A Darker Shade of Magic is better. The first book was more enjoyable to read. However, I did read the second book, hated the second book, especially in comparison to this one. I definitely prefer the second and third books in this series. The second book in this series, I didn't like it, and the third book I didn't finish. And now I'm wondering if it's because of Kate Reading as a narrator, which is another thing that could really just factor into my entire opinion of writing. Because is it the writing or is it the narration? That could be a whole nother video, but we're just gonna assume here in this video that I can, and also this first book has a different narrator than the second and third books, because the second and third books are narrated by Michael Kramer and Kate Redding, who I think I've come to realize I don't enjoy. I don't enjoy them as narrators. Very unpopular opinion, but I just don't. So, but I found this particular book very well written and very engaging, and I was actually, the first 20 to 30% of this book, I was smiling and I was very much enjoying it. But oh man, the second and third, is it Lila? Is it Kate Redding? I don't know, because I feel like I was enjoying, this isn't a review, I'm just talking about her as a writer. So I enjoyed this, I enjoyed the world building aspect of it, but I feel like it wasn't, you know, executed the way I would have preferred, especially when you consider the whole series. So again, there's more factors than just the writing, but I'm trying to just focus on writing and what it is I enjoy about writing. So what's my point? I don't have a point. My point is, my question is like, before you became a reader and before you started reading, or you just watched book reviews, or you just thought to yourself like, I want to read this, like what did you think it was? Whether you're a fantasy reader, we're gonna get to actually in the next book. Okay, so in terms of like, also I feel like it depends per genre. I feel like what I want to read in terms of writing changes per genre, and what I want out of characters changes per genre, and what I'm looking for in each genre changes, because I'm coming to realize, as you'll see as we get further through the list, that like when it comes to fantasy, I like lyrical, flowery writing, I guess. To me, it just adds in another layer of escapism, whimsicalness, like it just adds to that atmosphere, I guess, and I like very atmospheric fantasy books. However, there is an author in this list that I feel like, as a writer, is very, very good at writing, but other stuff, you know, it's like, I feel like I don't want to do this by ranking. I'm going through them by ranking because whatever. Okay, let's talk about the next one. The next one I'm going to talk about is Charlotte Bronte, who I feel, honestly, her being this low on the list is mean, because like this is so good. Like this is one of my top 10 reads of the year, spoiler alert. And just like the atmospheric writing in this book. So it's a classic. So is it like, okay, so do I want atmospheric writing when it comes to classics? Because my next person on the list is Taylor Jenkins Reid, who I've now read I've read all of her books except for 3 of them, Taylor Jenkins Reid. And Taylor Jenkins Reid has a very kind of bare bones, this book as an example is like only interviews. There's only dialogue. The entire book is dialogue. And is it just Taylor Jenkins Reid knowing her strengths and showing you her strengths, or is it my taste, or what is it? Because Charlotte Bronte as an author, like, is very, again, atmospheric, environmental, has some poetic, beautiful lines. And I feel like you kind of get that in here, but it's much more focused on the characters. So I feel like what I'm learning about myself is that characters and writing are playing a much bigger role in my reading taste than I would have thought. Because before, I would have thought I'm much more interested in plot and basic bare bones writing. But when you think about the comparison of these two authors and these two series, like, people always say that like the characters in this series are stronger, but then I preferred this series over this, and I feel like characters and writing are what I'm learning I gravitate towards and what I prefer to enjoy. I prefer to enjoy the characters and the writing more than the plot, I thought. But then it's like, when you get this, it's like, this is what people say has better writing, and I even think it has better writing, but then I enjoy this more. So it's just, what part does writing play in, you know, I'm just curious, like, how much you guys care about it. Like, how much do you care about writing in your books and stories, and does it change per genre? Because like, this is an example of like, this is one of my like all-time favorite contemporaries, and like Evelyn Hugo also, and like everything by her except for Carrie Soto, which I just finished and I didn't like, but I didn't like it because it was focused so much on tennis and it wasn't really focused on the romance. Because again, this is a romance. So these are two good examples to compare here, because I feel like I love like the will they won't they angsty romance of this and Evelyn Hugo and every other book that I kind of read, and then I didn't like it in Carrie Soto because I just feel like it wasn't developed enough. Like even Taylor Jenkins Reid, I'm gonna do a whole video on just Taylor Jenkins Reid, but once I finish like all her work. But this, what was my point? Again, maybe I should script things, because it's just weird to me, because it's like, this is so different. Like the way this is written is so different from this, but I enjoyed both of them. So it's like, is my opinion in contemporaries different than but this isn't a contemporary, this is still technically historical fiction because it's, you know, people in the 70s and the 60s. So those are my questions. I'm gonna try to sum up all my questions by the end here for you to, maybe we could make it a tag, I don't know. So let's just go on to the next author, because the next author is someone who I would say several people, and as I just mentioned earlier, has lyrical, beautiful writing, and that is going to be Erin Morgenstern. And she's kind of in the middle of this list here. She's literally number 5. She's like right in the middle. So I do enjoy her writing, but I'm going to unhaul this book and the other book. I've read both of her books. I've read Starless Sea and this book. And while the writing is great, the characters are lacking severely, and the plot is also severely lacking. So to me, I feel like I need a good, for something to be all-time favorite for me, I need a good plot, characters, and writing. But again, as we move up the list, you'll see that maybe the plot part isn't as strong as we thought, but this has so much of a messy plot, and I feel like I was talking to one of my friends about this. Like, she said she read it and she just couldn't tell you a single thing about this. Like, summarize the plot of this book. Anyone? So for me, it was a fail. It was 3-star, because it was like, and it's almost frustrating. Like I said, this was Starless Sea. It's almost frustrating because I feel like the writing is so good that if I could just get the other things I love, like it's like more frustrating that it's almost good to me. Like, it's almost good. It's like, you just could have given us a little bit more, Erin, and I would have been over the moon. But nope, you had to just give us some good words, some good sentences. You gave us a couple good sentences, and what else? Like, what else? Nothing else. It just felt so shallow. It's so shallow. That to me, I know many people love this book, and I'm sorry. That said, we're going to now move on to what I would say out of all of these books. I don't know. I'd have to actually, I think when I made my top 10 last year, I would say that this was number 1. But the top 4 here are all, but like, okay, so the next one is The Diviners, which I have many videos about. I don't want to go on too long about this because I have several videos mentioning my love for the Diviner series. I'm obsessed. My number 1 favorite series at the moment in life, and just so good. It's so good. But this is so good because I love the plot, the writing, the characters, the themes, everything. I love everything about this book and the whole series. I love the themes I love the discussion about religion, the discussion about philosophy, the discussion about just every time characters are having a discussion in here, talking about prohibition, talking about like this, but also the writing. Like, also I feel like Libba Bray has some fantastic writing. Like, I feel like on a technical level, it's really good. And now we're gonna move into like, these top 4 are like my taste. Like, I've come to realize that they are my taste, and like the characters, like if the characters hadn't been as strong in this series, I probably wouldn't have given it a 5. If the writing hadn't been as strong, I probably wouldn't have given it a 5. And if, you know what I mean? Like, I just need it all. I'm selfish. I want it all. But there you go. Okay, so next we have The Bear and the Nightingale, which I still need to continue this series. I've already started the second book, and I'm already obsessed. I love it. I love the writing. I would probably say the writing, the characters, and then the plot here, versus like, see, like, these are similar to me a lot of ways too, because like, this is historical, this is historical. This has like a main character who's like super badass, and like, what's the word? Again, I feel like all of these, I feel like Jane Eyre has a very strong female, hard-headed, and I feel like Evie O'Neill is also like a very strong, hard-headed, like kick-ass, take names, but not in a way that's like aggressive or, I'm gonna do a whole review for this book because I feel like there's certain parts of this book that just, what Jane Eyre does as a character, just, you know what I mean? It's like these things, like all 3 of these have like really strong female characters in the sense of like, they're not like Katniss, they're not like out here like shooting. I love Katniss as a character too, but like, these are all strong women who they hold their own, like, they're just so good. And I love Evie O'Neill as a character. She's probably one of my favorite literary characters ever, but I also love Vassia as a character, and I love Jane Eyre as a character, but I also love the way these are all written. Like, I just love all of the writing in all 3 of these books. And I feel like, especially if you like the historical aspects of this, and this is 1920s though, so maybe, I don't know, maybe it's too modern for you if you're into this, but I love these both. I feel like maybe this is more lush and evocative than this, because this definitely has like a more modern take on it, but this isn't a recommendations video. I'm just telling you. I'm telling you. And this has more paranormal elements, so like they're different, but I feel like if you like a spunky heroine, main character kind of girl, you have potential to love them both. So I feel like you could love this and hate this. Like, it depends on what kind of reader you are. So my point is that I just need it all, because this was a 5-star, this was like a 4.5, mostly because the plot was like a little too slow in my opinion, but Also, I understand why it was done the way it is, so there we go. I'm like talking about these like 2 at a time and stuff, but I just feel like I have to use these other books as examples to tell you like what my taste is. And I'm just curious, I'm curious what your taste is. Like, what is it that you look for? What is it that you reach for in a book? Like, is it gonna be, like, are you mostly concerned with the characters? Are you mostly concerned with like the writing? Like, I feel like if all you care about is writing, The Night Circus is gonna be right up your alley. It's lyrical, it's atmospheric, but also this is lyrical and this is atmospheric. Also, this is lyrical and this is atmospheric, and I enjoyed both of these on a level much higher, much higher than this. And also, this is lyrical and atmospheric. So it's like, there's these all of these have that in common, but one of them failed to me, in my opinion. So I'm curious, if anyone has read like all of these, which I don't know if that's possible, like if you have read all of these, I would be curious your thoughts. Or if you've read another Erin Morgenstern, or another Libba Bray, or I don't actually know if there are other Bronte books. I mean, I know there's other of her sister's works, but just curious, you know, what you guys' thoughts would be on these if you read all of them, because I feel like they all have lyrical writing. So now we're going to talk about what I think. I feel like, I don't know how many times I've mentioned it on my channel, but obviously the fact that I have this beautiful hardcover that I paid way too much money to get because I love the book that much, should say a lot. But I feel like I love Laszlo as a character, I love the writing in this book, and I love the plot. I do love the plot, even though people constantly talk about how it's slow. I don't mind a slow plot as long as there still is a plot. And I actually a while ago I was going to make a video comparing these two because I feel like something about this works and something about this doesn't. And what isn't? And I feel like, I guess it's the characters. It's the characters and the plot for me. It's like this, and I really thought, when I heard this reviewed and I heard people talk about it, I thought, I'm not gonna like that because it's lyrical and atmospheric and not something that I would enjoy. But then I read it and I was like, I love Laini Taylor's writing. Like, I think she is on a level of like, I don't know the word. Like, I just feel like she has some of the best writing I've ever read. But I also think Erin Morgenstern does. I think her writing is phenomenal. But it's not, you know, also it's like, there's just more here. You know, we're talking about a comparison of like, this is 512 pages. I would bet this is probably similar in size. Yeah, this is 502. So like, they're very similar in the length of the books. Like, even though, I don't know why this is taller though. So it's like, this feels like it has more meat to it than this. And I feel like this is more fleshed out. Obviously, like, just by the sheer, I mean, look at it. Like, the length is definitely there. So, I don't know. I don't want to make this a video like just comparing these two, but I feel like, as I've already said, this succeeded, this failed. What is it? Why is it? I'm asking you. You know, I'm asking you, have you read them both? What did you think? But then we're going to talk about Patrick Rothfuss, who is, this is currently my favorite adult fantasy novel. And I've read several others that I feel like it's necessary because we're talking about Rothfuss, we're talking about Sanderson. I also want to mention Robin Hobb, because I feel like, I didn't want to turn this into like talking about every author I've ever read, but it's like, when you talk about adult fantasy, I mean, like this one and Robin Hobb are very popular, but I read Assassin's Apprentice and I have an entire review for that book, which I will also, if I remember, link it on the screen. And I feel like I thought I would have enjoyed this less than Robin Hobb from the fact that it's lyrical, beautiful writing. But this I gave 4.25, 4.5, and I gave Assassin's Apprentice like a 3. But again, as I read on in this series, I was kind of, as I was reading this, I was thinking to myself, I really want to go back to the realm of the Elderlings. Like, I specifically remember, I actually can remember a sentence. Like, I remember like being in the kitchen and listening to this thing and them talking about like these elderly beings and the wit and the skill and the magic system of the realm of the Elderlings. And I'm like, I just feel like that's more of what I want in fantasy. Like, this feels more science-y, and this is more what I want. And I feel like Robin Hobb and Patrick Rothfuss have more of a similar writing style, as people have seen. And I have only read Assassin's Apprentice. I have not read The Name of the Wind. I mean, what? I've read and loved The Name of the Wind, and I really want to read and love Assassin's Apprentice. So I'm kind of like, should I reread it, continue on, or should I just continue on right away? But I don't own any of Robin Hobb, but I feel like she is a relevant author in comparison to these, because it's like, while the initial first book in the Cosmere that I read, actually this isn't the first book in the Cosmere I read, I also read Warbreaker, but the first like major part in their overarching worlds, like, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like there's like if you've read Brandon Sanderson and you've read Robin Hobb, do you have a preference? I feel like that's a really good example because I feel like they're different enough authors that focus on different things that I don't know if you like one, if you would like the other. Because that's always what intrigues me. That's always what I find interesting is when there's like two different authors that are both heavily hyped, but it seems like they're different. And it seems like you have, like similar to this, like I feel like if you, like I feel like I haven't really seen most people enjoy both of these. I mean, I have seen people enjoy both of these, but I feel like they're focused on different enough things that maybe you prefer one or the other. So like if you've read Sanderson and you've read Robin Hobb, I mean, possibly you've read all of them. Like which one of them do you prefer? Or do you like them both? Like I just don't have a point. I don't have a point. I'm just wondering like, what is your taste and what is my taste? I'm still trying to figure it out, but I mean, I do know my taste. Apparently my taste is lyrical, beautiful, poetic, fantastic writing. Like to me, it's just like, it's fantasy. Like this is what I want in fantasy. I want fantastic. I want you to really flex your imagination. I want you to go over the top. I want you to just lean into it. I want you to just really, really give me like an experience when you are writing. And I feel like, again, these three, I feel like have cross appeal. Now I've talked about how I feel like The Diviners and The Bear and the Nightingale and, I just said it. The Diviners and The Bear and the Nightingale and Jane Eyre all have like that kick-ass female, but I feel like these all have a similar writing style in the sense that they're very atmospheric, they're very character focused in a way, but they also have enough, for me, they have enough plot. For me, they have enough plot to keep me going. Like, I specifically remember, I would hear people talk about this before I read The Night Circus. People were like, it was like, you know, you just read that and you're just like in it and you're so like enveloped in the story. And I was like, I want that feeling so bad. And then I read The Name of the Wind. And that's what gave me that. I was like, the way people talk about The Night Circus, the way people discuss The Night Circus is how I feel about The Name of the Wind. This is what I want when it comes to just being swept away into this like magical realm. I don't, you know, now it's realm. I'm thinking of the word realm and I'm thinking about the realm of the elderlings. So it's like, you know, versus like the Cosmere, it sounds like space. And it's like, if I had gone into it with the mindset of like, if I had thought like this was a science fiction thing, would have made it like this felt so scientific, not only in the story delivery, but also just like the writing. It feels very, as they call it, like window pane prose. They call it like, it's just so scientific, emotionless. And I feel like people talk about how Robin Hobb is full of emotion. Like people always make jokes about Fitz and how he's really emotional. I just saw Elliot Brooks make a video about how Fitz would leave the window open and just let the rain in and just sit there and be depressed. And I'm like, is that what I want to read? Like, is that what I want to read? I don't know. So, but I feel like this is more in line with Robin Hobb. Even though I only gave Assassin's Apprentice 3 stars. But I'm like more intrigued by the world of Assassin's Apprentice than I am by the Cosmere. Even though I've read 4 Cosmere novels because everyone else tells me, everyone else is like, oh my God, Brandon Sanderson is like the greatest man ever. He's the best thing I've ever heard. Like he started a Kickstarter and made like $12 million. Like, sure, okay, but I prefer this. So because I prefer this, will I prefer Robin Hobb? I think so, but I don't know. Because I just can't decide. I'm still learning what I want. And it's like, how are you gonna help me how can you help me figure that out? What can you do? Nothing. But you can tell me if you've ever, I don't feel like these have anything in common. Actually, they kind of do, because they both have like this priest figure. But besides the point. So, but then again, we also have a priest figure here. We have a priest figure here. Look at this. I'm just gonna take every single book and I'm gonna try to make 3 comparisons. I'm just gonna randomly be like, what can I connect any of these random ass, you know, you can connect these via color scheme. You know, these two, they're similar in color scheme. But no, they all have some sort of, you know, we've got Sazed here. We've got, what's his name? I can't remember his name. I don't know, but there's like, you know, and there's Abinthy or Ben in here, you know. So let's come up with some questions to kind of pose at you here. Does your writing style preference change depending on genre? Does your enjoyment, how much of writing affects your enjoyment? Like how much weight do you put in just the writing alone? Like maybe if you don't care about writing, this video is meaningless to you. Like maybe you're just like, I don't need any kind of writing style. I'll just read whatever it is and that's fine. And then out of that, like if you don't care about writing, what is your most important factor? Is it the characters? Is it the plot? Is it the themes? Is it something else? If it's not writing, what is it? And again, is that dependent on the genre? Is your most important factor dependent on what genre that you're reading? Like if you're reading nonfiction, is it just as long as I learn something, or is writing style also a factor? And then of course, if you're talking about memoirs, do you rate those at all? Should you rate those at all? That's another topic. And then let's talk about atmosphere versus writing. Like, is the writing part of the atmosphere? I feel like it is because it's a book. And then I'm just gonna ask you, what makes a good writer? Like if you had to pick something like, or who are some of your favorite writers? Like if you were to take out the characters, take out the plot, like just on a writing standpoint alone, who do you think is one of the best writers in any genre? It can be any genre. And I feel like that's where we're gonna leave it. So thank you for letting me explode on you, all my thoughts. I just had so many to discuss about all of these people. So I'm gonna leave you those questions. Please, please, please tell me, like, what is most important to you out of your books? Like, is it the writing, the plot, the characters, or the themes, or something else? If you want to continue this question even further, feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram. I will also leave my Goodreads and my Twitter in the description as well if you'd like to check them out. Otherwise, have a great day. Bye.